What's going on, folks? Your boy is back for 2024. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the holidays. Got to spend some time with your loved ones and your family. But the UFC schedule is ready to kick it back into gear. Before we get into the first UFC fight week, which actually kicks off on Monday, there are a couple more videos I wanted to drop before we get back into the swing of things. The first of which is this 2024 Future Champions betting guide that I wanted to put together for you guys, something that I'm starting new for the year. We'll recap it at the end of the year and then go into 2025 with a similar segment. And then the second video I want to drop is kind of a recap of 2023 and what my plans are for 2024. I got a ton of new content dropping on the YouTube channel, not to mention the Patreon page. Also on the Fight Archive, we've now added Octagon MMA, Brave FC or Brave CF, whatever it's called, as well as Risen. So there's 3 new promotions on there. I believe that's closer to 15 promotions now that we got on the MMA Fight Archive, closing in on 3,000 fighter profiles as well. So if you enjoy doing your own research, make sure you guys check out the MMA Fight Archive. Link for that is in the description below. 7-day free trial available for that as well. All right. Also, just kicking it off, a little bit of a new setup. Got a new laptop and all that, and the audio is a little bit clunky or tinny, as some audio engineers I've heard call it. I've been unable to figure out what the issue is. If you have any tech savvy, audio savvy experience, please slide in my DMs, drop a comment below, hit me up, help me figure this goddamn thing out. I use the exact same setup as I have as my previous laptop, same settings, same everything. I don't know if there's something that I'm overlooking that's giving me this audio quality. What I think I'm going to be forced to do is maybe just record videos on my old laptop again, but then edit them on the new laptop, just so I can get that smooth, crisp sound, especially with a beautiful mic that I have here, the Shure MV7. So again, any audio engineers, anybody willing to lend a hand or help out in terms of trying to figure out the situation, let me know. Slide in the comment section or slide in my DMs on Twitter or Instagram. All right, without further ado, let's get into the predictions for the champions at the end of the year. Now, this is something that DraftKings actually put out during the holiday break. I thought they would still have it. I'm recording this on January 6th. I thought that, like I said, DraftKings would still have those future props up, but they don't. So we're going to go over to our guys over at BetOnline, and I'm going to go through their odds that they have. They obviously only have a $100 limit on these bets. So I'm going to be looking for some value spots. I'm going to be making predictions as well in terms of who I believe is going to be the champion of every division by the end of the year. Let me know what your thoughts are. Drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. But I'm going to go division by division here. So we'll start off with the first division here, UFC Flyweight division. Current champion Alexandre Pantoja, he just successfully defended his title against Brandon Royval back in December. Circumstances are still questionable in terms of who he will be fighting next. If we look at the fighters that BetOnline has up here, most of these guys have matchups lined up. Manel Cap taking on Matthias Nicolau and the first UFC event of the year. Amir Albazi headlining against Brandon Moreno. I believe that fight's in March or February. Alex Perez is taking on Mohamed Mokaev. I believe that is in February as well. I think that's the Saudi Arabia card. And then I believe Kai Car France, I think he's on the sidelines. I'm not 100% sure. But couple of spots that I'm liking here. I think that Moreno could make a decent enough a run if he were to pick up the win against Amir Albazi. But the one that interests me the most is actually Manel Cap at plus 400. I think that he goes out there and defeats Nicolau, and I think after that it's going to be hard to deny him to have a number 1 contender fight, which he could possibly have in the summer. And then by the ending of the year, he could line himself up for a title shot. The other guy that I was thinking about is Mohamed Mokaev at plus 850. He has a big fight against Alex Perez, former title challenger, again in February. He's another guy that could rattle out possibly 3 fights, with that third fight being for a title. But I think that the UFC is a little bit more sold on Manel Kape at this moment in time, considering he has more experience in the UFC against higher levels of competition, and they could fast track him to a title shot sooner than Mokaev. So I could see Kape getting a title shot and then Mokaev getting a title shot. But I think Kape is the one that is more likely to get a title shot in 2024 than Mokaev. So give me a Kape at plus 400. I think that's a damn good spot to take a future shot on Kape, especially with only $100 limits at plus 400, worth a bit of a shot there. All right, moving over to the bantamweights now. Obviously, Sean O'Malley, champion. He just won the title not too long ago. He's actually defending the title in February or March against Mr. Marlon Chito Vera. A fight that is more so hype based than actually, legitimacy, because you could obviously make a better case for Corey Sandhagen, who has a win over Marlon Vera recently, Umar Nurmagomedov, who needs to prove himself a little bit more, but talent-wise, probably the best fighter in the division. Merab Dvalishvili has a big fight coming up against Henry Cejudo at UFC 299, the same card as O'Malley and Vera. So even if there's an injury there, I could possibly see a person like Dvalishvili getting plugged into the main event there so that he can go out there and fight for the title. We know Aljamain Sterling has moved up to featherweight, so that's kind of nonsensical. Davison Figueiredo, live due to his popularity and the fact that he's already a champion or was a champion in a different division. So plus 1,600, not too bad. Maybe if he goes out there, gets another big win, he could find himself lined up for a title shot. Petr Yan, plus 900. This is a fighter that I believe the UFC is behind, and I think that they could, if he's able to go out there at UFC 299 and get a big win over Song Yadong, maybe he finds himself in title talks again. But the one that I'm probably going to lean on the most here is Merab Dvalishvili at plus 375. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I think Umar Nurmagomedov is the best fighter in this division, but he's just not getting the opportunities to compete, to assert himself as a clear-cut title contender, whereas Merab Dvalishvili, big fight on the line from here against Cejudo. If he passes the Cejudo test at UFC 299, he can find himself getting a title shot pretty much right after that. It all depends on how the UFC wants to match up Sean O'Malley, but it would be hard to deny Merab the shot, especially if a win over Cejudo. So plus 375 on Merab. Give me a taste of that. All right. Featherweights here, obviously current champion Alexander Volkanovski takes on Ilia Topuria. Actually, that one is in February. March is a UFC 299 card with all the bantamweight shenanigans. But UFC 298 in February, Alexander Volkanovski, current champion, going up against Ilia Topuria. A lot of people thinking that Volkanovski is starting to fall off due to his age. Obviously, got finished by Islam Makhachev on short notice back in October, but full-ish training camp, right back into the thick of things at the division that he should be at. There's that stat running around there right now where champions over 35 from the weight classes of 170 pounds and below are like 2-30 something in title fights. And Volkanovski is one of those guys that can be an exception to that rule. I believe the only 2 wins in that statistic were actually from Tyron Woodley during his fights against Wonderboy Thompson. I could be off on that, but I still think that Volkanovski has all the goods to go out there and pick up a win. Now, Topuria, very solid fighter. Don't get me wrong. He has all the makings to go out there and actually get the win here over Volkanovski. But either guy, with, again, $100 limits, plus 140, plus 280, I want to look a little bit further down the list to see if there's a dark horse in there that we could potentially invest in. And the guy that has my eye is actually Movsar Evloev at plus 1,100. He fights on the first UFC pay-per-view of the year against Arnold Allen, who's just right above them. They're at plus 800. But I believe Evloev is one of the best fighters in this division, and if he can add that Allen name to his ranking, to his win column, maybe he gets one more fight before possibly challenging for a title. I could see him possibly getting a guy like Yair Rodriguez or Max Holloway, or the winner of Rodriguez and Ortega, which takes place in March. So at plus 1,100, I think Evloev's worth a little bit of a shot as long as he stays active enough. Win in January, January, win in the summer, get a title shot at the end of the year, and I think that's absolutely possible. He's more than capable of doing that, but that win over Arnold Allen will be very key for him. If he can go out there, secure that victory, that's a win over a guy that's headlined a couple of fight nights recently. That's going to add a lot of steam to Evloev's name, not to mention already wins over guys like Dan Ige. This is a fight that he can go out there and absolutely win and find himself in a title shot near the ending of the year. So plus 1100 on Movsar Evloev. That's going to be my spot for UFC Featherweight champion at the end of 2024. All right, let's move over to the lightweight division now. Obviously, champion Islam Makhachev minus 300. I don't want to put that, even though I do believe he'll likely be the champion at the ending of the year. He just defended his title back in October. He's talked about either fighting in March or later in the summer just to avoid Ramadan. So he probably fights once, max two times this year. I'd kind of be surprised if it's more than once. So you have to wonder who is going to be the clear-cut number one contender for the lightweight championship. And to me, it kind of stands out as Arman Sarukian at plus 350. I know he had a close fight against Mateusz Gamrot, but I think Sarukian is a guy that's constantly improving, especially with the striking advantages that he's having over some of his opponents, his explosivity, the power that he has, and his ability to just kind of control what happens in the grappling room. He is the biggest threat to Islam Makhachev. Some people might think that it's going to be Benoit Saint-Denis, plus 1800, not a bad line, but I think it's going to be too quick in 2024 for him to rattle through a couple more fights and find himself in a title fight. If he stays busy enough, September is usually when the UFC goes back to France, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to put him in a title or not a title fight, a main event slot for that fight night, because we know that a lot of steam is picking up on Saint Denis. I just don't know if he fights in September, will that be a quick enough turnaround for him to potentially fight for the title at the end of the year? And again, look how many divisions I've already gone through and how many possible title fights could be at the end of the year based on the way that I'm trying to play things out. So Saint Denis, not bad at plus 1800 value, sure. But I think realistically speaking, Arman Sarukian will be the guy out of all of those names that likely secures himself a title shot before the ending of the year. And I think he ends up picking up the title. One name that I'm kind of surprised that's actually not on this list is Charles Oliveira. Why is Charles Oliveira not on this list? Regardless, I'm going to take Sarukian. I think even if Sarukian fights Oliveira for a number one contender fight, he probably ends up beating Oliveira and gets the title shot. So give me Sarukian plus 350. Not a bad line to sprinkle on there. All right, moving from lightweight, let's go to welterweight. Here we go. All right. Leon Edwards, champion, obviously just defended his title back in December. A great performance against a pretty sluggish performance from Colby Covington is what it is. So we got to look at the guys that have matchups coming up right now and potential number one contenders already. Shavkat Rakhmonov, I'd be surprised if they vault him into a title shot right away. I feel like a guy like Bilal Muhammad should be getting that shot. We should be getting news in the next couple of days of UFC 300, and it seems that there's been a lot of teasing that Leon Edwards could find himself on that card. If it's against anybody other than Bilal Muhammad, it would have to be the guy like a Nate Diaz. I mean, they bring back somebody like completely just out of the realm of possibility. Jorge Masvidal, he teased about unretiring and possibly coming back as well. So those names obviously aren't on it. And even if it's either of those guys that end up getting the shot against Edwards, I still believe that Edwards ends up beating them. So the two spots that I'm kind of looking at here, Bilal Muhammad, I think stylistically speaking, he should be able to go out there and do what Colby Covington was supposed to do, what Colby Covington was successful with in the 5th round, pushing for takedowns, keeping the pressure on Edwards, and not letting him just skirt around at bay. Sure, his takedown defense is improving, but we saw that if you stay persistent with it enough, you should be able to come out on top with a takedown and get some control time. Bilal Muhammad could do that. The question is, if Bilal fights Edwards in April and wins the title, does he defend it one or two more times in 2024? And does he overcome a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov who could potentially get the better of him? So at plus 160, if you really like Rakhmonov, this is the year he probably ends up getting a title shot. But I'm going to sprinkle Bilal and the other one that's kind of outlandish here, Jack Della Maddalena plus 1500. The UFC loves this guy. They haven't matched up against Gilbert Burns later this year. That's a fight that could potentially put Maddalena into title contention. Gilbert Burns is a former title challenger, and we've seen anybody that's defeated Burns in the past find themselves in that top ranking where they could potentially find themselves fighting for a title. And Maddalena is one of those guys. So at plus 1500, I think Maddalena is worth a shot. I wouldn't be surprised to see him potentially get a title shot by the ending of the year. We know the UFC likes to go to that Australian region near the ending of the year, and that's potentially a spot that they can plug him in, looking for a title shot, looking for a title fight. That's possible. So the two spots I'm going to be looking at, Maddalena plus 1500 and Bilal Muhammad plus 480. All right, moving over to the middleweight division, Sean Strickland, current champion, but Khamzat Chimaev has the highest odds at plus 275 to be the middleweight champion by the ending of the year. Now, the issue with Khamzat seems to be that he can't stay healthy. I'm sure you guys saw a couple days ago, he's been posting some weird things of like the recovery process that he had from his hand injury not going the greatest. He had a bunch of health issues, and I just don't know if that's going to keep him ready to potentially compete in 2024, or if he will need to take a warm-up fight and that potentially sees his title dreams come in 2025 instead. So plus 275, I'd probably pass on Khamzat Chimaev. Sean Strickland fighting Dricus du Plessis in January. I think Strickland wins that fight. Then it becomes, who does he fight next? Who are the other guys that have big spots coming up for them? Dolidze fights Imavov, I believe, in February in a main event slot. A win there probably propels either of those guys into a number one contender fight. Robert Whittaker fights Paulo Costa. I believe that's going down at UFC 300. A winner of that could potentially find themselves in a title fight of some sort. Marvin Vettori is fighting Brendan Allen. I believe that's in March, but I don't think either of those guys will find themselves in a title fight. Maybe Brendan Allen, if he stays busy enough and continues to rack up some wins, he's on a good enough streak to do so. But the guy that I'm kind of leaning on here is actually Robert Whittaker, plus 575. Get past Paulo Costa as long as his durability holds up. Maybe get the winner of Dolidze Imavov, which I think he wins either one of those fights. And then by the end of the year, possibly finds himself against Sean Strickland or whoever the champion is at the time. Robert Whittaker is my dark horse to become middleweight champion once again at plus 575. With Adesanya no longer there and an improved performance against Adesanya the second time compared to the first time that he fought him. Whittaker, he could be finding himself as a champion once again. So plus 575, give me Whittaker as the middleweight champion at the ending of the year. All right, middleweight, we're going to go to light heavyweight, where the current champion is currently Alex Pereira. Does not have a fight lined up at the moment, but I believe that Jamal Hill will likely be his next challenger, considering that Hill should be returning soon from his injuries. And he was the former champion who had to vacate due to an injury. The two guys that I'm actually going to be thinking about here, Magomed Ankalaev, I still believe is the best light heavyweight on the planet, plus 300, not a bad spot. But the question is, will the UFC look to give him a title shot, especially after the draw that he went to against Blachowicz at the ending of 2022? Maybe some lackluster performances in terms of entertaining the fans. Not really up there as of late, unless he delivers on some highlight reel knockouts, especially against Johnny Walker, like he's fighting next weekend. That could propel him into a title shot quicker. But Alexander Rakic, he's fighting Yuri Prochazka. You got Rakic at plus 900. Prochazka just coming off a title loss. A win for Rakic there could potentially position him for a title shot as well at some point in 2024. So at plus 900, Rakic is a guy that you could lean on to potentially get a title shot by the ending of the year. Again, it all depends on if he gets that win over Prochazka. It's possible. Give me Rakic plus 900, and then also give me a little bit of a sprinkle on Ankalaev in case the UFC does give him the benefit of the doubt, seeing his talent level, and say, okay, you know what? You beat Walker. Maybe you get one more win. Maybe we give you a title shot. So either way, hopefully one of those guys ends up being champion by the end of the year, and we can cash the ticket no matter who ends up going there with Rakic or Ankalaev. All right, heavyweights. This is the interesting division, right? Because you got John Jones and Stipe slated to fight each other at the midpoint of 2024. Jones is coming back from, I believe, a shoulder or bicep injury that forced him out of that fight in November that he was supposed to have against Stipe. Tom Aspinall, current interim champion, he's kind of just clamoring to fight for the unified title or the undisputed title. I don't think he's going to get his way. We're going to have to wait for Jones and Stipe to throw down, of which I still think Jones ends up coming out on top again. So that fight is in the middle of the year, which makes me believe at the ending of the year is when they'll probably have the next title defense. And I think it's going to be either Tom Aspinall or Jailton Almeida. Now, considering the landscape of the heavyweight division and Tom Aspinall's willingness, or I guess unwillingness to fight unless his next fight is for the undisputed title, it's absolutely possible that Aspinall ends up sitting on the sidelines until the ending of the year to fight the winner of Jones versus Miocic. And the rumor is that Miocic or Jones will likely retire no matter what the outcome is in their matchups. But Miocic has kind of talked about defending his title if he does beat Jones. He replied to Aspinall on Twitter saying, let me take care of my business with Jones and then we'll talk about unifying the titles or something like that. So maybe Stipe doesn't end up retiring, but I think he ends up losing to Jones regardless. Then the question becomes: is Jones interested enough in terms of taking on a challenge like Tom Aspinall, or does he just want to sail off into the sunset, heavyweight champion, defended against the quote-unquote greatest heavyweight of all time in Stipe Miocic, or at least the most successful heavyweight of all time in Stipe? That's the question. The two guys that I think that are most live to be champion at the ending of the year, should John Jones look to hang up the title, Tom Aspinall or Jailton Almeida. You can sprinkle a little bit of both, I guess, and come out with a little bit of profit, especially if Aspinall ends up coming out on top. But I'm going to go. See, the only issue is the timing of things. The heavyweight title is not going to be on the line until maybe July. So that leaves 5 months for whoever the winner is to either retire, get another training camp in, vacate the title, whatever it is. But the key ingredient here is Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall will likely be involved in the last heavyweight title fight of the year. And his foe can either be John Jones or could be Jailton Almeida, who is fighting Curtis Blades in a couple months here. Timing-wise, I'm going to say Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall will be the champion at the end of 2024. But going into 2025, he's going to have to defend that title against Jailton Almeida, and that's where I think that Almeida eventually snatches that title from him and becomes champion and reigns that division for a little bit. So for 2024, I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall. All right, that takes care of the men's divisions. Let's talk about the women's divisions now. We'll start off with the strawweights. Strawweights, we currently have Weili Zhang as a champion, minus 165. Her return is TBD as of right now. I think Tatiana Suarez has a fight lined up. I could be off on that. Let me quickly search that up. Tatiana, yeah, she's fighting Amanda Lemos. So maybe that fight, and that fight is in February. So maybe that fight allows her to get lined up for that title shot. I think Suarez is the uncrowned champion. If you're getting her at plus 200, that's probably a better line than you're going to get her against either Amanda Lemos or even Weili Zhang when she eventually fights her. Take that. Plus 200. Again, it's not a lot for a $100 limit, but I think she is the champion. She will be the, I guess, long reigning champion, depending on her age. She's 33, so maybe a couple years of just utilizing her dominant wrestling to go out there and stay on top. But at the ending of 2024, if she stays healthy, if she beats Amanda Lemos, barring some Hail Mary meme KO that Amanda Lemos is capable of, Tatiana Suarez should fight for the title by the ending of the year, and she will be champion. That one was easy. Flyweights, current champion Alexa Grasso, plus 350. She is actually considered the dog to Erin Blanchfield, who fights Manon Fiorot in March in Atlantic City. I believe that's the headliner. I also believe the winner of that fight fights Alexa Grasso next. So Erin Blanchfield, not a bad spot. She should be the champion by the ending of the year. But somebody that could potentially throw a wrench into those plans is Valentina Shevchenko. She had a draw in her last fight, so it wouldn't surprise me if she has maybe one number one contender fight this year and then finds herself in a title shot once again. And she's still quite talented. At plus 450 for her to be the champion by the ending of the year. If you're giving people those odds at the beginning of 2023, you'd be like, oh shit. She had one slip up against Grasso in a fight that she was winning, and then probably should have gone to no, she should have won the title against Alexa Grasso had it not been for that unfortunate 10-8 that was scored in that fight. So Blanchfield likely gets the shot. Shevchenko is more of a long shot, considering that we don't know if she'll 100% get the title shot. Again, Blanchfield fights in February. Maybe she fights Grasso middle of the year. And then hopefully closer to the ending of the year, we get another title fight and Shevchenko finds herself in there. She deserves it. So give me Shevchenko plus 450. That's going to be my prediction. And then the last division here that we're going to talk about is the women's bantamweight division, which currently has no champion, but we do have the vacant title fight lined up here in January. Mayra Bueno Silva, she's going up against Raquel Pennington at plus 450. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you guys know that I'm not the highest on Bueno Silva. She's kind of a meme fighter in the fact that she always just finds these weird submissions or weird opportunities to go out there and find the finish and get the win over her opponents. She throws with a lot of power in her hands, that's for sure. She has sneaky submissions, as we've seen against Holly Holm, as we've seen against Stephanie Egger. That's absolutely possible. I think she defeats Raquel Pennington. Pennington might be the minute winner here, but I don't think she's ready to deal with the weird and awkward and, power style of Bueno Silva. As long as Bueno Silva asserts herself, which is seemingly what she's been doing recently, which is why she's been successful, she wins that fight. So who is the following challenger for her? Who is going to be next to potentially challenge her and defeat Bueno Silva? Because she'll likely defend at least once this year. Who's next up? Juliana Pena, former champion, plus 350, not bad. Does Holly Holm find herself in a title shot again? Probably not. None of those names really intrigue me enough. I don't think Caitlin Vera will find herself in a title fight. Valentina will likely keep her eyes set on flyweight. Macy Chiasson, no. Carol Hosa, no. Patty Kansad, no. Norma Dumont, no. So to me, it's between Bueno Silva and Pena. Both of them sitting at plus 350. You can sprinkle both of them if you want and come out with some profit, hopefully. I'm going to go Bueno Silva. I think the best thing for her is the fact that these fights are going to be 5 rounds now. This allows her to capture a submission, try to find a weird way to win her fights for 25 minutes rather than just 15 minutes. Pena is probably your toughest threat out of those fighters at the top there. Maybe Pena has success with the wrestling, but she could potentially get caught in a submission of some sort, given Bueno Silva's awkward style and type of submission style. I'm going to go Silva. I think Silva is the champion at the ending of 2024, unless another contender somehow shows themselves, or if Valentina actually commits to fighting at 135 pounds. Again, even that one's a little bit iffy, considering that Shevchenko might have some flaws in the defensive submission game that she has, and Bueno Silva's meme ability to get those submissions. So I'll say Silva, champion, plus 350. There you guys go. Champions for all 11 divisions, I believe, in the UFC. Some weird ones, some that I feel are better than others. Go ahead to BetOnline. I have a link in the description below for a referral code. If you're not already signed up to BetOnline, you guys can get in on there and take advantage of that. I believe you get some sort of bonus bet upon your on deposit. So make sure you guys check that out. But yeah, let me know who you guys think will be champion by the ending of the year in each division or in a certain division, depending on your preference. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll be back tomorrow to drop a recap for 2023, as well as a look ahead to 2024 in terms of what to expect from the channel, the different types of content I'll be dropping through all the platforms, not just Patreon, but YouTube and Instagram and social media, taking a little bit more advantage of that. yeah, big 2024 coming up for you, boy. Glad to have you guys along for the ride. Again, hopefully you've enjoyed your holidays, but we are back into the thick of things. Appreciate all the love. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, let's get this thing going. Peace.